Welcome to our meeting tonight. First order of business is we have a presentation to make. I'll read the letter here. This fall, we got caught with personnel shortage in the recreation center, and we didn't have any senior people there that had experience from the past. And so a retired village employee stepped forward and volunteered his time. It didn't charge the village anything, and really kind of saved the day. And that's Mike Lemuel. So I wrote a letter to him. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and the Recreation Facility Manager, we would like to thank you for all the work and guidance you provided to the Civic Center staff during the fall of 2018. Because of your dedication and commitment to the Village Rouses Point Civic Center, as a retired employee and more recently a volunteer, the Civic Center is ready for another successful year of hockey and ice skating. You provided countless hours of instructing and advising on the process of making ice to ensure that the facility would be ready for another skating season. The Village Board, Recreation Facility Manager, and residents appreciate all that you have done for this community. It's signed by myself and Jessica Shields, Recreation Facility Manager. So I'd like to come up here and we'll have a little plaque for you. On either side, so you can't get away. You just cough on him, he's okay. There you go. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
You really saved us.
I did. It was my pleasure to be able to get back to you.
Well,
It
you
really
certainly
was,
did.
you know, and tell you, having Jess with me, it made a big difference, I'll tell you,
Yeah.
'cause she is dedicated,
Yep,
and she's a hard worker.
we're realizing that.
Yeah, she is. Thank you. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, the next order of business will open the meeting to the public. Anyone from the public may address the board at this time on any topic, and you also have another chance at the end of the meeting to comment on anything that may have come up during the meeting. Anyone from the audience like to address the board? All right. Minutes of the previous meeting, December 17th. Are there any errors or omissions? Comments from the board on these minutes?
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as read.
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Any bills?
No additions,
Deputy Treasurer, are there any additions or subtractions?
no additions, no deletions.
Okay.
I have one question
Go right ahead.
on the water. This USA Blue Book, we got 4 or 5 of them, what is that?
The reagent kits, the chlorine reagent
Oh,
kits.
is that they are, USA Blue Book?
Yep, one's reagent kits, one's recording charts, and the other one's a valve.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
You're
I have a
welcome.
question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Bills? I think we have the assistant treasurer here, correct?
Yeah.
There are 2 bills from SciTech for a total of $3,300. Can I have an overall explanation of what that charge was for?
I think that would probably go to Mr. Peters.
That was a cost for an investigation based on a claim made by an employee.
Can you tell me what type of investigation?
No, I can't.
There may be, I might be able to address that, Mr. LeBlanc. There will be some discussion, I believe, on this matter in the executive session that might be held later on this evening. So we can discuss that further at that point.
Any other discussion on the bills?
Make a motion, we pay the bills as written?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Correspondence. Ask the clerk to inform us of the correspondence.
We have a lot this evening. First is from New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. This is from Rose Harvey, Commissioner, and I'm gonna summarize. It's, in 2011, Governor Cuomo launched a Regional Economic Development Councils and a consolidated fund application to provide each region with the tools to create and implement their own roadmap for economic prosperity and job creation. This community-based model uses local assets to drive local economic growth and has resulted in unprecedented partnerships and coalition that are building a reinvigorated economy. And the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation is proud to have contributed $19.5 million to this year's consolidated fund application. I am pleased to inform you that a matching grant of $213,000 has been reserved from the Environmental Protection Fund grant program for parks, preservation, and heritage for the Rouses Point Parks Planning and Revitalization Project. And that's a summary of that letter.
Okay, this is the grant we spoke about at the last meeting, recreation grant, $213,000.
Next is from the Rouses Point 4th of July Committee, Mayor Batha and Village Trustees. The committee has begun making plans for this year's celebration. American Legion Post 912 will again sponsor this event for us. The celebration will start on Friday, 28th June at noon and run through Sunday, 30th June, concluding with fireworks at dusk. We are asking permission to use the Rouses Point Civic Center grounds and stage for our concerts, Kids' Day events, vendors, rides, bouncy house, and food vendors similar to past 4th of July celebrations. The committee is asking for permission to have a beer garden should a local business step forward to operate this type of program. That business will be responsible for their off-premise license, insurance, double fencing, checking IDs, and all signage and anything else that will ensure that the alcoholic beverage they sell will be handled in the best way possible. Our events may include a 5K run, chicken barbecue, Kids' Day, concerts, vendors, and rides for the kids. The weekend will conclude on Sunday, June 30th, with the street parade at 6 p.m. and the fireworks display at dusk. This will be our 59th year celebration, and we look forward to another successful weekend in Rouses Point. Thank you, Karen Gilroy, Chairman of the 4th of July Committee.
Okay, we need a motion to approve this.
I make a motion to approve the use of the Civic Center for the 4th of July committee.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilroy.
Thank you for all your work.
Next letter is from Montgomery Hose Hook and Ladder. Dear Mayor and Trustees, we wish to inform you of a new member who has been approved to our company for a probationary period of 6 months, Thomas Dart, Lily Ave, and Rouses Point. Please act on this member, and we thank you for your time in this matter.
Okay, need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the new member.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. And next is to Village of Rouses Point Mayor, Trustees, Public Works Superintendent, and residents. I, Eric Miller, regret to inform you that I have accepted a new position as a line mechanic for NYSEG. I hereby am giving my notice, and my final day will be January 18th, 2019. I would like to thank everyone for the great experiences and times that I have experienced through my career. I especially would like to thank Mr. Brian Pelkey for the vast amount of knowledge he has passed along to me throughout my career. My coworkers and office faculty are nothing but exceptional, and I am blessed to say that I had a wonderful 12-and-a-half-year career in this beautiful place. I look forward to the next step in my career, but will never forget the foundation that allowed me to be confident enough to test with NYSEG and make this major life-changing decision. The village should be proud of the vast knowledge and work ethic that is displayed in their crews. It was an honor and pleasure to work with and learn from every single person I have been associated with. Thank you for the wonderful years and good luck in the future, Eric Miller.
All right, that's all?
And one more.
One more, okay.
This is Dear Village Trustees. In response to today's article in the Press Republican written by Laura McKinstry and previous discussions with Mayor Batha, I wanted to take a moment to comment on the article. ERS Investors is most interested in the vision of the village and its residents concerning the future of the former Pfizer property now owned by ERS. We understand the history of the site and what it meant to the village and its residents. ERS welcomes all of your ideas and concerns as the site is transformed into new productive use. As you can imagine, a project of this size and complexity is challenging in many areas. One of those areas is the structure itself. We have discussed the potential of keeping some of the structure in place, and those discussions are ongoing. With regard to the front buildings discussed in the article, at the present time, we are inclined to agree with John Cooper in his reference to the heating system. Our assessment of the cost associated with getting those buildings to an acceptable standard to be used as office space is so cost prohibitive, we don't think it's feasible to keep them. We do, however, want to ensure you that ERS is in early discussions with potential tenants to bring new life to the site and jobs to the village. As this process begins to develop, we will keep the village informed of our progress and welcome your input. Thank you for your understanding. We look forward to working with the village of Rouses Point. Sincerely, David Kreutz. Sorry. And that's all that I have.
Okay, any comment on that letter?
I'll reserve comment until my time, Mr. Mayor.
All right. All right, under my part here, we have a letter, I received a letter from the Clinton County Health Department requesting, well, to boil it all down, they're asking all the villages to see if we can provide places where if the power went off out in the village or in the region, that we would have a place for people, they could plug in their oxygen rechargers and different medical devices that they need in electricity. And of course, we've got, I think almost every public building is backed up with an emergency generator system now. So we have heat, electricity. Of course, the water and sewer plants are run independently with emergency generators. So the village is in pretty good shape to survive a power outage. So what they asked was if we could, or our facility, have the ability to reserve some building space for use by your municipal residents who may require emergency power, i.e. battery charging for their oxygen concentrators. So I guess we just need a motion to approve that we will dedicate some space, maybe this facility, maybe the fire station. I mean, I don't anticipate it would be a lot of people, and it hasn't happened since '98, but it's kind of a fallback plan. So how would the board like to proceed on this? I mean, we're obviously going to answer in a positive way, but do you want to formulate a policy specifically, or?
Do we have a backup generator here?
Yeah,
So
outside,
let's,
huge.
let's dedicate this room for.
Well, I think
I
the
think it
fire
may-
station would be better, because they got a little kitchenette, and they got showers there and stuff, and,
Well, you know what I was thinking
Right,
of?
but I don't
Maybe we
think
could,
that's what they're asking for, they're just asking.
no,
for
but,
places to
I mean, in
charge.
case they, stay for
Yeah, I
a
mean-
while or whatever, I
Right,
have no idea.
people would always be at the fire department, so.
well, you know what I was thinking was, maybe we ought to defer this over to the fire chief to discuss it with the fire department, because I don't want to sit there and tell these people that we just decided we're going to give it to the fire department.
Right.
When, if there was a major catastrophe, that building is chaos in there, organized chaos, but I
Right.
mean, you know, last ice storm, it had a lot of people in there.
Yeah,
And so maybe they could come up with some recommendations, which would be the best place to have this. I mean, we certainly have enough places, it just let them organize their, charge the emergency stuff around, and let them come back with a recommendation.
That sounds great.
How does the board feel on that?
yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, I will ask the administrator to send a memo over to the fire chief with this in place, and he can discuss it with the members of the department, and then come back to the village, and then we'll forward it to the health department. All right? Okay, I have a resolution here for the voter registration day. We're not going to have a voter registration day this year. Not my choice, but the election people said that nobody came last year, so anyway, here's the resolution. Whereas the next general election of village officers will be held 19th of March 2019, and whereas due to lack of activity at past registration days, the village officials have decided to not hold a registration day for the general election of 2019. This resolution shall take effect immediately. And I move that to the floor. We need a second.
Second.
Okay, now, second for discussion is, you can still register to vote anytime, I believe, up to the day before the election.
Correct.
You just go down to the village office. It's not like we're cutting off registration. We're just not gonna have a bunch of volunteer people sitting around the office all day on a Saturday waiting for somebody to come in and register. They can register at any time, Monday through Friday, the office is open. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, then the second one I have is the polling place. Whereas the next village election of offices for the village of Rouses Point be held on Tuesday, March 19th, 2019, and whereas the Board of Trustees of said village must designate by resolution a polling place and hours which the polls shall be open per section 15-104-3B of the State of New York election law, therefore it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Village Rouses Point has determined the polling place shall be at the Village of Rouses Point Civic Center, Halsted Hall, located at 39 Lake Street, Rouses Point, New York, with the polls being open from noon till 9 p.m. Be it therefore resolved that as required by section 15-104-3B of the state election law, notice of said village polling place and time the polls will be open be given at at least 60 days prior to said election date, which is today. Okay, so I'll move that to the floor. Need a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's carried. Okay, now, the next thing we have here is something that the administrator and I have been working on for a couple of months here, and it's discussion resolution of clean energy community. And it's two resolutions, but I'd like to ask the administrator to explain this. I did ask him to have a cover memo, which you have. He did that to explain what these are, but Steve, you want to just...
Sure. Clean energy communities are, it's a program that's popping up around New York State that allows for specific grant funding for communities that are designated as such. And in order to achieve that designation, there's a list of 10 things that a community can do. And they just have to meet 4 of them in order to get started. And so these two resolutions, if they were to be passed, would also meet up with the other 2 things that the village has, which is the charging stations and the hybrid vehicle, which qualifies, and also the our current code enforcement officer, Mickey Tatro, who has been certified through clean energy processes, that also meets the criteria. So we've received confirmation of those 2, and with this resolution, I'll submit the resolution, if this is approved, and then we'll receive that bid as well. And I have to double check this, but I believe it does come with a $5,000 grant right off the bat that we can use for a variety of clean energy projects if we wanted to.
or more lower energy streetlight bulbs.
And they encourage obviously that to
Yes,
to
yeah.
continue those projects.
Mhm. All right, any questions? Any discussion? Okay, I'll read the first resolution. This is Resolution 2019-03. Whereas New York State has developed a unified solar photovoltaic permitting process designated as streamlined municipal permitting, which will reduce costs of solar projects and support the growth of clean energy jobs across the state. Whereas the village of Green Island is, why do we have that in there? Whereas the village of Rouses Point is desirous of participating in the unified permitting process, thereby increasing the village's eligibility for various incentives and grants through the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Now therefore it be resolved that the Village of Rouse's Point adopts the New York State Unified Solar Permit as attached here to as Exhibit 1, and be further resolved that the village board authorize the mayor's office to complete the grant application through the streamlined permitting program to allow the village to receive a grant award of up to $2,500 from New York State Energy Research and Development Authority for the adoption of United Solar Permit application. So I will move that to the floor.
So move.
I'll need a second.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one's carried. The second one, let's see, how much of this has to be read here. Okay, the second one will be Resolution 2019-04, establishing energy benchmarking requirements for certain municipal buildings. Whereas buildings are the single largest user of energy in New York State, the poorest performing buildings typically use several times the energy of the highest performing buildings, and whereas collecting, reporting, and sharing building energy data on a regular basis allows municipal officials and the public to understand the energy performance of municipal buildings relative to similar buildings nationwide. And equipped with this, the village may make smarter, more cost-effective operational and capital investment decisions. Whereas the Village of Rouse's Point Board of Trustees desires to use building energy benchmarking, a process of measuring a building's energy use, tracking that use over time, and comparing performance to similar buildings to promote the public health, safety, and welfare by making available good actionable information on municipal buildings' energy use to help identify opportunities to cut costs and reduce pollution in the Village of Rouse's Point. And whereas the Village of Rouse's Point Board of Trustees desires to establish procedure or guidelines for Village of Rouse's Point staff to conduct such energy and benchmarking, be it now therefore resolved and determined that the following specific policies and procedures are adopted, and there's 3 pages of the specific policies. You all have copies of this? Okay. So I'll move that to the floor, that we adopt that benchmarking process.
I make a motion to adopt that resolution.
Take a second. Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried. Okay, okay, now I have an update on discussion regarding the longevity issue with the bargaining unit. We met with the village labor attorney 2 days ago with the bargaining unit labor attorney, and we were told we had an agreement already to sign and agree to, and they withdrew their offer. So they just said no. So I asked the village labor attorney to investigate it and come back to us with recommendations for the way we may proceed. She said she probably wouldn't be ready by tonight's meeting, but she will be, I'm anticipating, before next meeting in 2 weeks, and then they'll have a variety of options that we have, and we can discuss them and adopt them. That was kind of disappointing though, because a lot of work and man hours had gone into that up to that point. I'd like to request an executive session to discuss an employment history of a particular employee.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. And is there anything else there, Donna? That's it? Okay, Trustee Arnold?
All right, at the Welcome Center at the railroad station, they need volunteers from whoever in the village would like to volunteer for opening and closing this summer. And they don't have a lot of hours that they do up there. They're only open like from 11 o'clock until 1:30, 1:30 in the afternoon. So if they could open up more, so more people could go in there and look at the place and stuff, and they have some nice exhibits up there and stuff like that, so. Also, the stage out here, it needs some work done, and needs some cleaning to be done on it and stuff like that, and they need volunteers, or either that or the village crew.
Is that for the spring though, Ben, or?
For the spring, yeah.
Okay.
For the spring, yeah.
Why don't, remind us again, you know, maybe in like April or May.
Right.
For that part, you know, 'cause-
Yeah, okay.
and nobody will remember from now.
Yeah, and also the beautification committee, all the people on there that plant flowers and stuff like that, they're all up in age, I mean, up in their high 70s. That plant all the flowers in the village, and they'd like some volunteers, younger volunteers from the village, if they could help, and stuff like that, plant flowers this year, take care of some of the flower gardens and stuff, but they do one heck of a job. I gotta give credit to all the girls that do that. And,
Who should they contact, Ben, if they want to?
Nancy Baker. Yep,
Okay.
yep, so. The next thing I have is, when we put the eaves trough up here on the rec center,
Yeah.
I think this summer we ought to take and put some snow guards up there. Because when the snow comes down, it pulls, most of the time pulls the eaves up and stuff, so if we could put them above.
You mean these new, just over the new things we're putting in?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, over the doors and stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and also, people are asked that the clock is not working in front of the village office.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
First time hearing.
Well, it said 10:15 tonight, I mean, so I mean, it wasn't 10:15 when I went by there, so. It's not working, and it's not lit, it's usually lit, and it's
Maybe it got unplugged. You know, maybe wire broke or something.
I don't know.
That's telling you that clock's fixed.
Yeah. And also, the dog trash cans are full right to the top. I don't know who takes care of that, if it's the village crew, or if it's the rec center, or whoever, but they're all full. And they should be checked once a week, stuff like that, so thank you on that. And, the rec center, for their skates and stuff, I'd like to see them put some racks up in the skate sharpening room. Put some racks up, so instead of the racks, or the skates being on the floor.
Taking care of that today. We found some metal racks in the old evidence room.
Yes,
There's two of them. We're gonna move down there, at least as an interim thing, until we can get a better arrangement. But they're about this wide, and, you know, have shelves in them.
well, you can buy, I mean, you go to Lowe's and buy racks that's 10 feet long or whatever, cut them to size. You know, and they're not expensive, $25, 25, 30
Well, I
bucks.
think this will do for right now, because it's immediate, you know, just moving down there, probably be moved down tomorrow.
More the next day.
Yeah, they'll be down
I'll
before
find
this
it out.
weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to see them.
yeah,
off
we
the
want to
floor.
get that going, yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't know if I should discuss this under, or personnel, or, executive session, but Mr. Miller would like to donate his, rest of his sick time to the sick bank for the village crew, if that's possible.
I believe we're looking into that to see if that can be done. I certainly have no objection to it, but we're looking into see if there's any ramifications that we're not aware of before we, but that'd be good.
Yeah. So, that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Dart.
I've got a couple questions. One is our new ice sharpening machine. Can our administrator let us know how training's coming on that, and how comfortable we can ask for shields?
Yeah, we've been,
Yeah, I mean, we're doing great with it. At first, obviously, there was a lot of learning lessons and little tweaks here and there. We actually took a pair of the new skates that we received in for rentals, and we all practiced on the different sizes, just because they do vary as far as how you set it in the machine. But that gave us a chance to train on it, and then when people started coming in with their skates, then we had a better idea of how we wanted to place them in. But it's doing amazing. Word of mouth is getting out. We're doing a lot of skate sharpenings at this point. In comparison to when I started, I only saw one
Sure.
pair at the beginning of last year, and this year we've already done over 20. in just a
Yes.
couple of days. So people are really taking to the new machine, takes a lot of the legwork out of it, a lot of room for error, human error. So people are coming in, they want to watch the process, which is really cool. So it's going great, actually.
And what are we charging for this?
We charge $5 for figure and hockey, but we do charge $6 for goalie just because it is kind of a harder cut and use more of the stone.
Do you need us to reach out to the company that we purchased this from for any further assistance?
Yeah, we have reached out. I reached out when we first put it together. We had issues with the figure skates getting around the toe pick and a good cut. And then he just kind of talked about tweaking the arm on it, which brings the stone in a little bit closer. So they've been really great as far as that
So the
technical.
receptive was working with us?
Yes, yep, over the phone, and the guy was excited that we had the brand new skate sharpener, so he was great to work with.
Yeah, thank you.
I also talked to Mr. Babby tonight. He said that the rental skates are really going really good and stuff like that, and they're getting a lot of people open skating, a lot of people. So,
Okay, thank you. It was very encouraging to receive a letter from Mr. Cruz from ERS Investments. And I don't quite take the statement though that it would be really cost prohibitive to put electric heat in those buildings. We're in the power grid in Rouses Point, and we have some pretty talented electrical people. Plus, we've got an electrical engineer that could, give us an update or a look at the situation, see what we do. Especially building number 1, that office building out front. I think that's a total doable situation, not a tear down situation. And I firmly believe that building number 5, we could look at some kind of electrical plan for electrical heating in there, or electrical generation for heating.
Trustee Dar, I'd like a clarification, I have a question.
Sure.
The front building is building 1.
Yes.
Like the brick. The immediate one behind it turns out is building 2 or 3.
2, I believe.
And then building 5 is the next one behind that. Now, were you talking about building 1 and the one immediately behind it
Yes,
as a
sir.
parking? Because 5 is actually the next
Right.
3-story one.
That's my error.
Okay, so we're talking building 1 and 2.
1 and 2. The multi-story building right behind it, the one attached to it.
Yeah.
Nothing to the south of that, nothing to the right of it as you face the front of it. So anyways, I think it is a doable situation, and I'm sure Trustee LeBlanc and I are still going to continue to have a great interest in any of the property we get. And I'd still like to see us get the property across the street from our water tower, if they're willing to give that vacant land up, so we can make a turnaround and join 2 streets together, Pine Haven and I forgot what the other one is. Anyways, so we can do away with having 2 dead-end streets there.
Beechwood.
Beechwood, thank you. Last thing I got is, we all received a copy of an excerpt from the NICOM handbook concerning executive sessions, and I'm wondering why we got this. What's this in relation to?
There was just some questions about what executive sessions, what qualifies for an executive session. So I just made copies and gave them to all the trustees, just so that there wasn't any questions, or if you didn't have questions, you can call me.
Okay.
But that's just a reminder, they're all in your NICOM books, and they're also in the code, but just to have it, I keep it in my book, so I thought if you just want to keep it readily available, get it.
So it wasn't any specific comment from anyone wanting information? It's just
No,
you giving us an update?
yes, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I have tonight.
Hey, Trustee Menard.
I just have one thing. I would like to make a motion to request an executive session to discuss personnel matters.
We have a motion in a second.
Question on that, is that part of the original executive session?
No, it's a different
No,
one.
this is
So
it.
we'll have to open, close, and open, close, two specific executive sessions. Is that correct?
No, when we go into executive session, we'll do one thing and do the
All
other.
right.
We just need a separate motion for it. So motion, I need a second for it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And that's all I have for this.
Okay, Trustee LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In the agenda packet that everybody received, you have the executive summary report of the initial plans we put together from the since we started this endeavor. Encourage all board members to reach out to members of the community and share that information and get feedback and bring it to us. I think as we have done over the past many months, we are going to move strongly in the area of economic development. This is one of the first, second, and third priorities of the village. So it's in my opinion, this is do or die. To that extent, at the next board meeting, I will introduce a motion to allocate the sum of $250,000 to economic development fund, that when the time arises, and we can make the appropriate investments based on if we can get an agreement with an IDA or other suitable vehicle, that money will be available for projects as they arise. It may be possible that will come to the surface over the next year, but we certainly hope so. These are long-term objectives in many cases, so years.
Where do you identify the $250,000 coming from?
We want C-20 to be able to immediately activate any project that comes.
No, I understand what you want. I'm asking you where you expect to get it from.
I expect to make a motion to have that money allocated in the budget.
It isn't, you mean the current budget?
No, this is the upcoming budget.
Okay, do you understand that that comes out of general fund?
I understand exactly where it comes from, Mr. Mayor, and I think you heard me very clearly. We want $250,000 allocated
Right.
in the coming year's budget for economic development.
The general fund is approximately $650,000. That's your tax money and other things that aren't water, sewer, electric. $250,000 is about a third of that, so you're gonna raise the taxes a third to get that $250,000. Or cut $250,000 out of the general fund budget. I mean, that's just arithmetic, it's not politics, I'm just saying.
No, it is politics, Mr. Mayor. It's my vision of the village and other trustees against your budget.
I'm asking you a dollar and cents question, I'm not asking you about a philosophical question at this point, I'm saying specifically.
Well, we had funding in there for a prior police department of $160,000. I don't know where that's going.
87,000 went to the ambulance.
87, well, that's, you know, that shouldn't be, you know, stated like it's gonna go to the ambulance, because the ambulance should be additional funding. And I understand we need the ambulance, and I'm not even getting off into that. And we closed the court system that I believe the last time the bills were paid with that was $90,000. So we have those two
It
expenditures.
was 35,000.
What's that?
It was 35,000 when you deducted the revenue that they got from the fines from the gross amount. The gross amount, I think, was about 75,000. Take off about 40, the net was about 35.
Right, $40,000. So anyways, so you get $200,000 between those two things right there that are generated every year, and we haven't lowered the taxes to that extent for the budget year coming up.
And to be specific, we're not allocating or advocating that we just spend the $250,000 never getting back. We hope to recover as much as we can. It's in every IDA type of project.
I'm not questioning that, Ron.
Yes, you are.
I'm asking specifically where the money would come from out of the general fund budget for $250,000. It's a third of the budget. That's what I'm asking.
The budget officer should follow the recommendations as we make them as a board. It's a budget officer's job.
So raise the taxes.
The taxes cannot be determined until you get through the whole budget process. We're 4 months away.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, if there's any questions on that, I'll just see me or Tom Dart. Second part, Mr. Mayor, you and the administrator met with ERS Investments a short while ago, I believe.
Yes.
And tell me what happened, what transpired in that meeting?
We were invited to a meeting by the principals of ERS, and they explained how their company works, what its national, what would you call it, their business model, how they do things, what they're interested in. I conveyed your interest in acquiring property. I conveyed my interest in asking for right-of-ways for the 2 streets for future growth of residential property, approximately 30 or 40 building lots. And I asked them to also consider some property adjacent to the water tower in case we want to put the new water plant up there. Of course, that site remains to be determined by the engineers once we get farther down the line. And that's what we did. And that's what they told us. They told us their schedule. They told us that they don't normally sell property. They rent property, they rebuild, they construct tailor-made buildings for clients. They expressed a potential, not even a request, but a potential request for a possible rail extension, depending on what kind of business they get in there, or a possible truck route bypass in there to mitigate any tractor-trailer traffic to the village. And we know that the Pfizer plant had, I don't know how many tractor-trailers, but it wasn't really noticeable. What would you guess, Dale, maybe 10, 20 a day? Just guessing. I mean, it varied day by day probably, but,
Yeah, I would say.
I don't think they're that bad.
no?
Probably 8, probably.
Yeah, well, anyways, he didn't know what businesses he was getting in there. But they explained to us that they make their income back from remediating toxic sites, things that have problems, things that don't have problems, and then repurposing the land to get businesses to come in and develop on that land, and that's how they make their profit, is by selling buildings and purpose-built things and managing the whole site. That's what they do. They didn't ask us for anything from the village particularly. They just, we told them what was available as far as like the substation proximity, the water tower, that type of thing. And that's about all they did.
Did they convey the resources they had to do all this work? Are they an engineering company or?
Yes, I believe they have in-house engineers.
They have staffs and all that, and construction people and that?
This is what they do. They're doing 4 sites concurrently now. They've done up to, 11 at a time, but they prefer to keep it a smaller number because it's easier for them to manage because they're spread out all over the country. I believe are they doing another Pfizer plant?
I don't
I
know.
can't remember. I know Pfizer said that they're in the process like this one is on 7 other facilities.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I did a little investigation because I found it strange, and that meeting you have, I did request that I attend that meeting.
You weren't invited. They invited us. We didn't invite them.
Well, is the tail wagging the dog here or the village? We're involved in this.
They called a meeting and asked us if we'd like to attend, and that's who they invited.
So I was all through the summer when we talking about economic development of that property. We all went along with what was being fed to us. And then I started actually it was just a couple weeks ago when I did contact ERS and said the village wants to send an official letter to negotiate for the purchase of those 2 buildings. And I got an immediate email response back and said, basically, mind your own business. I thought that was kind of strange, so I did a lot of investigation. And I investigated this ERS investment company and found out they have less people probably than the village of Rouses Point does as employees. They have no engineering resources or anything like this. Not only that, they had no tangible, they have a beautiful website, but no tangible results. In fact, the only result that they touted was that they had developed the Pfizer property in Rouses Point, New York. And that was evidence of their expertise. So I find this very strange that they've already developed that and they're advertising it as such. In fact, one piece of information I found was that they only had 29 employees. So they can't have scads of resources to do all this. And you're right, they're only interested in brownfield type of properties, which are polluted properties. So that's very interesting. I found that Pfizer would employ them, when in fact, Mr. Mayor, Pfizer had plenty of opportunities to develop that property without ERS. They had an offer on the table this summer, viable offer from the local company to develop property there, good cash money. And there would have been new jobs and investment in that property immediately. That was turned down. I thought that was suspicious. Also, the Kent Pilot property, that's been taken for years, never been sold. Interesting, they could have developed that, sold it off. Heck with this, I think I put together what's really happening here. The plan, in my opinion only, is that Pfizer plans, and another thing I found out is that it kept saying that ERS may own the property, I don't know. But when I went to the county clerk this week, there's no evidence that there was any deed transfer to ERS from Pfizer, none at all. So, what's the facts? Maybe there will be a transaction in the future, who knows? I'm just saying that's what the facts are this week. But here's what I believe. I believe that Pfizer, and here's what we have from Pfizer if I see it. In the springtime, we're gonna have a hole in the ground, a mountain of debt, and no jobs. That's what we got. So that's where I'm coming from. And I believe that all they wanna do is with other brownfields, clear out the buildings, put it down to grass, and let it fallow there for 20, 30, or 40 years, so that nobody even looks at it. And I think we should look at that property when those buildings are cleared out, but I want the state to look at it, and maybe the EPA to look at that property, and give us a report on what's on that property after they clear those buildings out. And I think that has to be done. We have to protect the residents of the village of Rouses Point and the surrounding area. I want to know what's in that ground. Also, I think we need to take further action as a village to really use that property. If that property sits idle for 40 years, this is the biggest waste I've ever seen in this village. And I can tell you, I'm gonna yell about this until the cows come home. And I'm telling you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to get an answer from you on what you wanna do on this within 1 week. And if you don't have an answer, I'm gonna bring a resolution up to do exactly what I said, to have the board hire legal counsel to protect our interests in the village of Rouses Point. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Other reports? Administrator?
Yep, so, as per, the board's request, Jess and I put together, Jess really put together, budget numbers and operational numbers from the rec center, more or less a litmus test of how it's doing this year versus last year. So I have some of that data for you today. The summary, the quick summary is, it's, you know, as you know, this building costs, sometimes between $30,000 and $40,000 annually. Last year at this time, it had lost about $26,000. This year, it's lost about $13,000. We've cut that in half. We do know that a lot of that is geared toward the staffing shortage. Not all of it, but some of it geared towards staffing shortage. So the real key to look at is revenue generation this year versus last year. October last year was about $7,500. October this year was about $3,600. So our difference in terms of revenue, the loss really starts just in October. We've had a 12% increase in savings since then, so I expect our revenue numbers to equalize or exceed last year's by the end of this year. So it's been, on paper, it's been going, it started off definitely very slow, but the numbers are very clear that they've turned around, especially when you look at revenue as a percentage of expense. It's been turning around through December and into January already, and Jess and I have talked, and there's no indication of it slowing down, so we're pretty happy about that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board on this?
Is it possible that you photocopy something for us, put it on?
Of course, yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely.
Anything else, Steve?
That's all I have today.
Okay, Mr. Pelkey.
Yes, Trustee Arno, the clock in front of the village office has been broke for about a week. The line crew worked on it, and it's just rotted out.
Oh.
So I instructed them to take it down, and we'll have to put it in the budget for a new one.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty rough.
Yep. That was the last piece of that old lighting system. Yeah, came in, was that about 20 years old or so?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, what else?
No,
Well, you got more stuff to tell us.
no, just maintaining, working on
Well, we had
pumps.
a pretty major pump overhaul at the at the sewage lift station on Montgomery Street, the 10-inch pump went on the fritz, and the village crew took it all apart and put a new one in that we had on stock, fortunately.
That's part of our weekly maintenance of everything that we do. It's
Yeah,
so
they
hard
took the
to,
whole thing apart.
it's so hard to describe every job that we do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just about virtually impossible.
Well,
My
I'm just
crews-
saying, that was a big one.
Right,
It
my
was 6
crews-
guys for 2 days down there.
You know, my crews are from one end of this village to the other. And it all
That's like
depends
the water
on,
plant, the pipe that they're gonna change in the water plant, that 16-inch pipe, that's
10
gonna be a,
yeah. A 10-inch,
or a 10-inch.
10-inch line that goes out to the 16-inch main has to be replaced. That's
That's
gonna
gonna
be,
be quite a project.
Yeah, it's not gonna be fun either. We got one piece of the trim work up over this door. We were able to put that in. That is just, apparently, it's just a dummy gutter to fill in where the old one was, because there isn't one there anymore. And hopefully this week we're gonna get some more up. We have any luck?
no,
No?
no.
On the highway.
Probably spring. Because if the ice is just gonna tear them back down, what's the sense of putting them back up? Until you put your snow guards up.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
Nope.
Okay, Mr. Cooper, code officer.
Well, we're just maintaining at this time. We got a few little things done. Of course, I'm still on the planning board too, which I have to resign from, but I think things are picking up a little bit. I would like to see more, but it's that time of the year.
Were you able to get the bugs out of the new computer?
Some of them, I'm still having trouble with the email. I gotta get Steve to come down there and take another look at that. And, yeah, actually.
But the code part of it's working?
Yeah, things are working pretty well.
Let me see, you
He
got all
got
the,
in there and we're bringing some other stuff in and, because he's up to town of Champlain with some of their stuff, but he's getting everything to work back and forth. He goes down we go on Wednesdays, him and I, and he works on it for a couple hours. And of course, we tour the village and we're keeping track of everything. Actually, I personally feel that we're doing pretty well, considering we got a bad start there because we had no paperwork to work with. I think we're doing well.
I'm very encouraged myself. You guys are doing a good job.
Yeah, we're getting things organized.
Yeah. Okay, facility manager, you have anything?
Yes, I mean, going off of, in a different way of what Steve said about our numbers, obviously October we had a late start, given the situation of staffing. As he said, things have turned around considerably. Having more staff definitely helps that cause, but even having our skate rentals have been blooming. I mean, I think the community really wanted to see that, and being able to provide that, we've seen families enjoy the ice. We actually have a lot of Canadian customers are coming over, enjoying the ice as well. So we're not just pulling in a community, we're actually pulling in outside communities as well. So I think that's exciting that we're able to offer that product and expand it even more so. But with that, you know, with the schedule versus last year, we had a lot of open hours of ice just kind of sitting idle. With our numbers increasing, you know, what we're trying to do is pull that schedule tighter. So I've asked Steve to kind of incorporate into that report. I would like to see the percentage. There is unrentable, unbillable ice time, especially in between games. You can't rent that ice time out. So I think that when we look at that report as a whole at the end of the budget, it's important to factor that in, just because, you know, if it shows that, you know, 4 hours of that day, why didn't we rent out ice? Well, there's reason for that. So we are going to incorporate that into the report, just so we have those percentages as well. But I have created a new form that we all started using on Saturday, which breaks down inventory, but even breaks down ice renting time. So we know specifically how many people are attending public skating, our stick and puck programs, how many people that we don't normally have in our leagues and organizations scheduling ice time for their Vermont or, you know, maybe Canada, or just random people wanting to do birthday parties. So we didn't have that before, so I think that's really going to be good to get a definite breakdown of how well everything's doing, and everyone's very quick to pick up on the form. People like the form. So that report will start being generated actually tomorrow. When I come in, I'll start processing that through, so you guys will have those numbers as well. So at this point, we're just kind of playing smart in the sense of scheduling hours accordingly to what we have, you know, so we don't have a lot of staff coming in kind of in idle time. But now that we have the extra staff, we are able to open up those hours during the weekdays. A lot of people had asked in the beginning if we were going to be able to do open hockey like we used to prior, but we weren't able to at that point. But now we're actually able to. So we are gonna incorporate that back into our schedule, but we're gonna also look at different, like senior skating, something that others who maybe are retired and still, there's an older lady who's amazing, comes down, uses the ice, and she's in love with the idea of being able to come down mid-afternoon when she's doing her errands to use the ice. So we are gonna open up different programs during the weekdays to really get to those who can use it during that time, as well as the weekend hours for families and those who work. So,
Okay, that sounds great.
yeah, so we're just kind of moving forward from this point on, and, I'm positive to see those numbers start increasing the way that we had wanted to, and I think January and February are going to be amazing months.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
So on your scheduling, we had some of the parents that come in here to a board meeting one night and talked about ice time and stuff, that they're losing 5 or 10 minutes or whatever. Have you got that all straightened out now?
Yes, that was a matter of just a little bit more Zamboni training. I think when you're new on the Zamboni, you do want to take your time, you want that cut to be perfect, so you're not going back out fixing an error. So we did work with that one particular person closer, very close actually, and I'm grateful to say that that situation has been resolved. I have spoken with different members of organizations, and they're very pleased with that time being cut down.
Oh, okay. That's it?
Anybody else? All right, I'll open the meeting back up to the public. Anyone from the public wishing to address the board on any topic may do so at this time. If not, request a motion to adjourn,
Recess.
recess, ma'am.
Recess for
Recess for executive session.